Full blast. I thought to myself in the kitchen as I was guzzling the coffee, I said to myself, let's see what happens this episode. Because I have no idea. It's like art. It's when you're making something, ideally, and usually your best work, it's surprises. And so it's very similar here. Welcome back, everyone. Again, thank you for all the support. Artist Journal, January 11th, 2023. Broadcasting and sailing deep across the seas of inner space. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. And here, my friends, I went to the gym this morning before we get into this wonderful work here by our favorite robot artist. Well, who knows? Maybe there's a lot of robot artists out there. By one of our favorite robot artists here, one of my favorite. Anyway. I went to the gym this morning. I've been going the last, 3 days, vacations, getting out of town, sort of got me off of, off the wagon or out of the regular sink and routine. But I have to say, my brain is breathing. My brain is breathing again, and it is like the brain fog is lifting and everything. So, everybody's like, go to the gym for, losing weight, build muscle and everything. It's also, maybe most importantly, go for your brain is, my little moral of the last, 3 days here. Go for your brain, because it just feels much more it feels like it's breathing. So with that in mind, let's begin here. We have Rare, and we have a robot, the Tesla robot. So we saw this with Rare in the last maybe month or two, a new beginning of sorts, but keeping with the robot theme, of course, using the Boston Dynamics dog, the yellow robot dog that we are all used to. And so continuing the theme, which I think is pretty cool because, you think, again, it's easy to forget if you're not actually making images, or maybe, but the dog can be limiting in the sense of composition here. Like, let's say you saw this painting here and you decided you wanted to put a Boston Dynamics dog. It might be kind of awkward. You have to have the dog like this or something, right? So that's part of what I see going on here is like, this is a great solution, let's put it this way, for Rare, because all of a sudden Rare keeps his theme of the, playing with the pastiche, and again, pastiche taking, playing on original works or previous famous works and then kind of putting a twist on them, or styles. So you could do it with like a Warhol screen print in that style and kind of do a pastiche in that sense too. We looked that up way back about 6 months ago. And so the robot seems like a great solution here, because all of a sudden, I think Rare's world opens up enormously in terms of the kinds of paintings, the kinds of pastiches that can be done here. This was a pretty interesting, I think from a conceptual point of view, it was an interesting choice, because you have a kind of for lack of a better term, a very strong contrast here between, of course, this is based on Caravaggio's The Incredulity. I don't know who comes up with these titles. It's not Caravaggio, I'll tell you that much. The Incredulity of St. Thomas here. And I think a pretty good, interesting contrast, just to finish that thought here, with, this kind of very human, this very famous biblical story. And that's a whole other subject of painting stories, which is a huge theme I'd love to discuss, which I'm sure we will. And the importance of painting these famous stories. But playing here, as you can see here, this fleshy wound, and putting, this famous story of Thomas not believing that Jesus is resurrected, and so needing to put his finger in the wound in order to, prove to himself that this is real, and incredulous. So this beautiful contrast of this kind of organic, fleshy wound, and here, this robot, this Tesla robot, and I love how it is a Tesla robot with the Tesla symbol on it, that kind of corporate. To me, it gives again this kind of nice contrast here. I mean, I'm sure it's the default on the robot there, but it's still cool. So this contrast finally of the fleshy wound, but it's a robot, and maybe playing somewhat on the ambiguity of these things. They like the things, the qualities that make something seem alive. The anima, right? The soul, like what, what is it's anima, to animate, to move, right? It's alive because it moves, right? This is kind of like ancient philosophy, Aristotle type, categories. There's the plants, minerals don't move. So therefore, a lot of people or a lot of, thinking along those lines would say, okay, not quite alive, maybe organic material, but not quite alive. But then insects, move. But before insects are plants, right? And then plants are moving just slowly. So kind of the different, what do they call it? The great chain of being, right? The great order of reality here. And so bringing it back to the Tesla robot here, it's moving, right? Just like the Boston Dynamics dog. And I think Rare actually put out a tweet maybe 2 or 3 months ago, if I remember right, if I'm not misremembering, about how the Boston Dynamics dog creates a sense of, it's unnerving for some people. The Boston Dynamics dog. There's something about it which kind of triggers, to a certain degree, some people. I find that totally surprising. I mean, to me, it's just it's the robot dog, and isn't that cute? And it's kind of funny, brilliant, kind of smart pastiche. And a beautiful, on a technical level, that yellow is a beautiful contrast, right? With these brown paintings, right? Almost like color contrast showing, very modern and, more of these brown paintings, kind of older images. So bringing it back to the robot here, again, that ambiguity that I'm discussing here, then I think Rare was discussing of the robot, like what triggers people of the Boston Dynamics dog. And one could argue it is the sense of it feels like there's this ambiguity of the sense that it has life, right? But because it moves, and that's what we're used to, is things that move, and it moves in an organic way. It's not just like a car that goes forward, you put on the blinker and turn left or right. It moves like a human, right? It kind of messes with our minds, which is where I suspect the triggering comes from. So I think, I would argue Rare maintains that kind of ambiguity with this new, subject, so to speak. I mean, 2 or 3 months now. But I'm not sure we've seen too many works, what I'd consider grand narrative painting works by Rare with the robot. So here, I thought a great beginning. And again, that whole sense of ambiguity of this thing being alive, the Doubting Thomas really complements that ambiguity. It highlights it to a certain degree, and it's saying, are you actually alive? Right? And so that's where I'm going with that. I suspect, that's basically the moral of the story, so to speak. If not, it's amoral that we could delve from this. And quite beautifully rendered here as well, just very quickly. I have to say, it would have been tempting. I love how, it's left kind of loose and just like painterly here, the logo. I don't know if you can see that. We'll see if we can see how it's just like, it's almost like a different brush. It's almost like, pastel texture brush versus these oil type brushes here. I thought that was a nice touch. And even here, you see a little bit of the roughness, but it's beautiful. Again, as my dad would say about, he grew up in Rome. And so him going to the Vatican, he said, when you see the masterpieces up close, you actually see how rough they are. As I always say, as my friend says, how loose they are. But, how you see some of the brush strokes. You see, the construction of the work here. So I like that a lot in this just tiny detail here, among others. And so beautiful. Now, I'll just show you the original here, because it's always fun when you have a pastiche. Here is the original. of course, Caravaggio. And I brought up actually my favorite ChatGPT prompt is actually the importance. My favorite question for ChatGPT to ask is always, what is the importance of XYZ? So here, what is the importance of Caravaggio's incredulity of St. Thomas? And just before I go into that, I just wanted to bring Rare's tweet here. Donning his, Node Monkey here with the Bitcoin orange. Nice choice, Rare. That one looks like it's already worth probably half a Bitcoin there. GM, my first painting of 2024. The incredulity of St. Thomas towards Tesla. After Caravaggio's The Incredulity of St. Thomas, digital painting, still deciding where to mint it. And I thought that was fun, actually. I like this. It could be minted anywhere. Could be minted on Super Rare, where Rare is. Could be minted on Manifold. It could be minted on a different chain. You could put it on Tezos. You could put it on Solana. I mean, what would this do, just for speculative sake, on Solana? It's an interesting question. So let's get back to my question. For ChatGPT-4, what is the importance of Caravaggio's Incredulity of St. Thomas? And it's basically all the regular stuff. First of all, it was painted in 1601, 1602. Contemporary with Shakespeare there. Realism and a lot of the, Raphael, Leonardo, that's early 1500s. So we're talking like 75 years later. Realism and chiaroscuro, and I think we see the influence really of Leonardo ultimately here in the lighting, probably more than anyone. But let's continue here. Emotional intensity and humanism. So these are aspects of Caravaggio's work that are deemed kind of significant here. Influence on Baroque art, a seminal work in the development of Baroque art. So dramatic lighting, again, that's a chiaroscuro, biblical interpretation. The way that Caravaggio depicts this is quite interesting. I mean, it's very realistic in its lighting. I would argue it's kind of unrealistic in its setting, though. Weirdly, I mean, I'm not a Caravaggio scholar or whatever, but I would just, as someone who's paid attention to Caravaggio, we had the little books in Italian. Actually, there are bigger books in Italian at home. That's how I could recognize this instantly. Kind of allegorical in the depiction of the story, I would argue. Like, what is this space? Right? It's just like a brown kind of background. It almost doesn't matter. It's a speculative space to a certain degree, where this ultra-realistic story or rendition of this story is depicted here. And really, the background here, the setting, you might say, is simply a formal decision. I would argue a technical decision going, okay, that's the background. It contrasts nicely. The focus is here. You see the light here and shining as we hit right on the forehead of Thomas, the incredulity right in the wrinkles right here on the forehead of St. Thomas. So just really cool. And there was controversy. Well, maybe we should read a bit of that. His choice to depict biblical figures in a very earthly and realistic manner, sometimes using ordinary people, including those from lower social classes as models, was revolutionary and sometimes criticized at the time. So a kind of realism there. The painting is a good example of how he brought a relatable human aspect to religious scenes. So again, interesting here. Yeah, bringing a realism to these, depending on where you stand on the spectrum of the religious spectrum. I was going to say mythical stories, but stories that have taken on the importance of the significance of myth. Let's put it that way. So there you have it. There's our opener here. Let's keep running. Thank you. Huge thank you to Artie Hands. Super interesting discussion yesterday on curating, on just digital art, on really Artie Hands' story of how he got into crypto surprisingly late, I would say, like a lot of us during the pandemic there, sitting at home. and nowhere to go. And so Artie Hands and got into Top Shot. So anyways, I'll let you listen to that. It is a really cool, the first half is on collecting. The second half of the show is on curating. And the show that Artie Hands is working on and just released yesterday or today with VerseWorks. So check that out. So really cool. And thank you everybody for attending. Nice 312. That's pretty good. Continuing on, comments on yesterday's show here. Let me just make this slightly bigger. Human Boy, great episodes. The advancements of screens or display technology is going to be so interesting to see where we go from here. I really loved the display of X-Mortal's work. Remember the 5 TVs, I think it was? Or the 2, 4, 6 TVs with the square in the middle? Brilliant. I'd never seen that before. I really like the display of X-Mortal's work, and I'm going to need to acquire some of those square screens. That transparent screen looks amazing as well. Yeah, the ones, exactly. And also, thanks for featuring my work, Ripple. You are welcome, Human Boy. Great to hear from you. Rada, absolute value from each episode. Thanks a lot for this gem, sir. Really great to hear that. That is also... just makes it all worthwhile that people really get value from this. And I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more historical aspects into this, as we just saw with Caravaggio, just to make it all the more, in my world, that makes it all the more valuable. Because if you can walk away and all of a sudden you just have a little bit more of a clue on Caravaggio, as now I'm like, oh, okay, that's 1601, 1602. We haven't wasted our time. I would argue. So really appreciate that comment, Rada. And Tom Bambattle, great to hear from you. And Ikiko, MTDC, Rada, GM. And I thought this was kind of funny. The buy YouTube views, clearly a spam. You don't know how to make a bad video. So I really appreciate that. But we're going to have to remove the spam. A very nice spam, I might say, though. And thank you, Oliveira. We have a work by Oliveira today. Really great AI piece in the AI section there. Luciana Guerra, thank you. Trippy Collector, hilarious. And Dither, great to hear from you. Lily Illo, Artie Hands, that was hilarious, actually. I dare you not to marvel should be the tagline for Tezos artists. Hilarious. And Strange Thing, actually, and I brought up, actually, a couple of tweets here. So thank you, everybody. Walk, Demon Ego, and everybody for White Solitude, Salieri, Neyman. And I'm going to get into Little Cake's comment there right after Strange Things. It's always invigorating, this is Strange Thing, to know someone truly understands the essence of my work. Thank you for being that insightful voice, championing my artistic journey with such heartfelt enthusiasm as always. So it's really great to hear that, and that these discussions here are approximating somewhere along the lines of the artists. So I really appreciate hearing that. And I would just say, like, Strange Thing, and what's great about kind of the story of Strange Thing is on this show, like, it started with, like, being impressed but kind of skeptical on the AI thing. But I've been, through that discussion, though, I was converted onto the AI train and saying, okay, this matters. And, again, I look at Strange Thing's work, it just continues to, impress. And so all to say, thank you for the very wonderful comment. Great to hear from you, Strange Thing. Little Cakes, this is interesting. Starting to come around to the idea of minting on Sol or ETH after all your convos on the show. Or maybe I'm just lazy and you talking about it makes me want to be less lazy about it. And we got a response here from Dan Kelly. I'm in the same boat now that I did my first Sora piece. Mentioned today about the idea of keeping specific collections on one chain. Couldn't decide if it would be bad form to split the Draw a Dog Tuesday series onto multiple chains, or if that would be bad form. Thoughts? You have a lot of Draw a Dog Tuesdays, enough for multiple chains, in my opinion. Thank you for the encouragement. Definitely going to explore this out further. So it is an interesting thing. I'd almost say my 2 cents on this is, if you're going to go multi-chain with a series, then, and I think of my Promoted Stories series, which I started putting on Zora, and then I put on Tezos, but what I was going to say here is I wouldn't just keep it to 2 chains. I've kept mine to 2 chains, but I actually want to expand it to other chains. I was thinking about putting one on Sol. I'm still kind of like excited to put something on Polkadot here, which I'm still thinking is kind of like a waiting in the wings there. It's like, the words escape me, but it feels like a tsunami is coming there. And maybe I'm totally wrong on that one. Not an expert on blockchains there, but just what I see, the tech and just the values, actually, and not just like moral values, which are important, clearly, and I'd say core, but the values of the operation, like of how they're doing things, the methodical foundations, So here, if you're wondering, the essay that I was discussing yesterday by Jonathan Swift, we were discussing black humor, and Andre Breton, his crucial anthology on black humor, which starts with Swift. I suspect it actually starts with this. I didn't check, but I wouldn't be surprised if it started with this work, ironically called A Modest Proposal. And I'll just show you here. This was written in 1729, a Juvenalian satirical essay. Of course, Juvenal, a famous Roman satirist, the essay suggests that the impoverished Irish might ease their economic troubles by selling their children as food to rich gentlemen and ladies. The satirical hyperbole or exaggeration mocked heartless attitudes towards the poor, who were predominantly Irish Catholic, as well as British policy towards the Irish in general. So here is also something I wanted to show you. Because, of course, this is important for us because as we're dealing in satire, as we saw with Wasteman Goldminovich, and the more we understand what we're dealing with from a historical point of view, in a sense, the more serious people that know all this stuff can take you, I would argue, because then they go, oh, this person knows what they're doing. They're not just, so this is why I go into this a little bit. And I think it's quite interesting too. Something I wanted to show you also in this little still here. In the 18th century, it was very common to have super long titles. So you see here, a modest proposal for preventing the children of poor people from being a burden to their parents or country, and for making them beneficial to the public. That is the title. So just kind of funny there. Again, 1729. And so this is available on Gutenberg here. And I just want to show you how short it is, actually, because here it is. And that's it. It ends there. So it's not a huge read. And as I was thinking to myself this morning, like once you read it, you've read it, so you only need to do it once. It's not Swift is not super easy, but he's not impossible either. So something to check out. And this, what is the importance? Just finally, and then we're going to run into the digital art here. Satirical commentary on societal issues, use of irony and sarcasm, influence on satirical writing, examination of, so there's a moral and ethical side to it, and historical insight and educational value. So, yeah, and then I was asking about the comparison between Juvenal and Swift, because they're saying Swift was groundbreaking here, but I was like, and Juvenal's even harder, by the way, because there are so many, again, 1st, 2nd century AD Roman writer. He's even more difficult because there are so many references to the current historical context. Remember I was describing Gulliver's Travels as being kind of difficult in that respect? So you kind of got to know the political parties of 1729 to understand Gulliver's Travels to a certain degree. So who knows that, right? So here, I just wanted to bring this up too. Here is a famous satirist, William Hogarth. And here's the Rake's Progress here. A famous 18th century satirist. I'm not sure if we have a date. 1735, interestingly. So 6 years after Swift here. And Hogarth is a very famous woodcut illustrator of the 18th century who satirized. Again, and we think of our Die with the Most Likes. We think of our Wasteman Goldminovich here. Let me see if I can bring that up again. And here you see, the progress of basically a young man who goes into society here and partying, having a good time. And here, not sure exactly what's going on here. Maybe meets his future wife. There's lightning striking. Not exactly sure what's going on. There's a ton going on in each of these, by the way. Here, maybe getting married. It looks like they're getting married here. More partying, hilariously. That is hilarious. Back to the partying. Here, looking like a ton of kids and just like the work of the family. And here, again, a little bit of satire here, looking like in Bedlam, looking like in the crazy house at the end. So a little bit of 18th century satire. A rake's progress, in other words, like a young man's, an up-and-coming young man's progress. And that's there in the Met Museum, okay? So it relates here. And so a new one just came out, since we're on the satire here, by Wasteman Goldminovich here, and I thought this was hilarious, opening night. So a opening night of an art opening. I was fortunate enough to be given a solo show by a friendly gallery owner in return for 6 months free labor at his country estate, an offer I considered too good to pass up. So here's my opening night exhibition. As you can see, a great time was had by all. I didn't sell any of my works, but my friend said I could do another show if I was prepared to extend my period of unpaid labor. I didn't need to be asked twice, let's put it that way. So hilarious here. And there is our guy, the failed artist. Welcome to my art show, now on the cast here. And just another fun work here. And there is the gallery owner, his friend, and there's the bloodshot eyes and the cigarette. And there are cigarettes all over the floor here, and wine and everything, and maybe some mustard and hot dogs, of course. And interestingly, nice touch here. The failed artist is happy. See, he's happy. Everybody else has like an unhappy face, right? So kind of funny. And then the paintings themselves, I think, are pretty funny. And then the final coup de grace here. I love Starbucks. So I love it. I picked one up. Just awesome. And they look great on this new object homepage, don't they? Or new object detail page, I guess we'd call it. Really nice. And there's just another satire work. So satirizing with the ground beef here by Die With The Most Likes, Rip Cash's work. So I thought that was kind of funny too, and pretty fast, pretty witty. And you see almost like the Bitcoin orangish red there in the background. Good meat. So pretty hilarious there. Just another kind of technical thing, which is interesting. And actually, I had a technical issue with the curation when it's hidden, because I was trying to prepare the show and I was like, oh, I can use the curation tool to start grouping things before and leave it hidden. But it seemed to stop at 36. I couldn't add any more when it was hidden, more than 36. So I don't know if that's just my computer or maybe it's an actual bug. So I thought I'd just mention that here in case anybody's watching. Mumbleboy. Not only Pocobelli also made curation of the works he mentioned on the object.com, this is the first time I've been curated, and actually the first time I've been able to look at the curating function as well. For some reason, I hadn't been able to see it. So there is Mumbleboy, and actually there's another one today, Mumbleboy. And this is what I want to highlight here. I'm wondering if I'd been curated elsewhere. As far as I know, there doesn't seem to be a notification system when you've been curated on object, but I think it's something that should be made. And yet, the thought crossed my mind as well, but I have a feeling they've thought of that, is sort of my sense. Because the problem, I'd argue, with the notifications, like, I think it's an open question. And I think because at first I thought, oh, I'd like to know that too. But then someone, like if you have someone who wants to troll you, all of a sudden they can just, start spamming your notifications all of a sudden with curations or whatever. So there is a kind of I think I understand why they didn't do it, which is maybe you don't want to let other people get into your notifications and you not have control over it to a certain degree. Just anybody, and yeah, so who knows, but also an interesting idea, and maybe there is a good way to do it. Continuing on, Sky Goodman. I don't regret anything I've done here in the last few years. I've stumbled, I've thrived, I've made lifelong connections. But at times the pace of the space got to me and had me putting out work before it was ready. And that's okay, that's what I needed then, but now is different. Each piece of work has its own lifespan. And this is really true, isn't it? Each piece of work has its own lifespan, each art piece, and a way of letting me know when it is done. And I'm working on pieces so gingerly now, with such detail and care, and I feel everything about this is so good for me right now. You know, we're dealing in it's not science, it's not mathematics. So dealing in art, I mean, there's the whole discussion and question, when is a work done? Right? I was discussing earlier how I liked the rawness of one of my works that I was putting out. I was even talking about Elby's work. I don't know, maybe that was slaved away on for, weeks. I don't know, but I have a feeling it was kind of a quicker work, but it looked great. And so it's an interesting question. My sense, and it kind of became a debate actually in December, I think a little bit of, spending a long time on work. I really, to me, this is the takeaway. Each piece of work has its own lifespan, and being kind of sensitive to that and kind of being able to go with something when it feels that it's right. I think the real key, just on a pragmatic level, like on the day-to-day practical level, the way I like to do it generally is you sleep on it. And then the next day you look at it and then you go, is it ready? And then sometimes you see it's not. And then you go, okay, this needs a bit more work. But I think it's very important to not people can do what they want and whatever works. I think it's important that when you finish a work, you don't need to mint it instantly. Sometimes it's good to, take a night of sleep, look at it again, and then something will pop out at you that you didn't see at all the night before. So interesting comment from Sky Goodman. And I think we have a really interesting piece, actually, in the AI section there. This is funny. Uxine, mainstream art, crypto art. Kind of cryptic here. And as you see, actually, in Uxine's profile here, you can see it's like probably some sort of, I assume this is ASCII or some sort of text here. CRYPTO art. So that is pretty funny here. And we see the same thing here. There we go. Mainstream crypto art. So kind of cryptic, but I thought kind of funny. Here's another work by Creation by Uxine. Interestingly, leaving these, I thought that was an interesting piece here, leaving the transform tool as he repeats this figure in all the million different ways, right? And these could, of course, be put on top of each other too and turned into a GIF. Again, just a really interesting work in progress there from Uxine. This is Xerox Rhodes. And this was really stood out to me in its use of you see this? This, my friends, looks like at least a reference to the decalcomania process, of which pioneered by Max Ernst, and I think we could say, was it Roberto Matta or Oscar Dominguez? Was it Roberto Matta or Oscar Dominguez? A classic surrealist technique here, which is to put basically, and we've all kind of done it, accidentally or not, maybe it's just glue on a piece of paper in elementary school and you lift it, and then you get these cool kind of, random but patterned marks here. So all to say, interesting piece, looks like an ambitious piece in the works from Xerox here, Rhodes. Interesting there. And here, Boo Boy on Nifty Gateway, curated drop, Toxic Story Collection, open edition, and raffle for physical painting, which I thought was another interesting combination. This looks like the physical here, doesn't it? So another interesting way of doing it is you have an edition. There's a physical, you put out an edition of 25 or whatever the case is, maybe an open edition, and then at the end you just do a raffle. I thought innovative, smart way of, so your piece becomes a lottery ticket, in other words, which is kind of fun. I thought just another interesting selling device, Paper Buddha, a really cool artist. Behind every Paper Buddha artwork is a story. What if we could write that story together? What if your NFT was a little more like a book? What if you wanted to add your own pages? What if we created the art for those pages together? What story would you tell? So something is brewing here. Working with Transient Labs and Super Rare, we have created something really special. We will be launching the project together in March, and I will be sharing a lot of art between now and then. Stay tuned. So very cool. Of course, Paper Buddha We've looked at Paper Buddha's work here before, and actually I talked to in a Retro Manny Spaces, talked to Paper Buddha too. Really cool artist, and does a lot of what I'd call digital collage, but uses, scans in, images from old books and whatnot, and creates, collages that are inherently digital. So that could be pretty interesting here. And finally here in the opening section, Dan Control. I've been seeing a few of these. How cool is this? I think we looked at one yesterday from Walk, Zora Upload Imagination. This is awesome. And look at this. So just really cool images here. And of course you see a Dan Control pigeon work there. And another one there. You gotta love this. Hey? I just think it's really cool campaign. So we were mentioning this yesterday. RJ let me bring this one up first. RJ was going to write the essay on Yuri J, and the essay is already delivered. That is incredible, RJ. So here, it turned into at first it was going to be on this work here, but it turned into a curated solo show of sorts with a PDF that has been uploaded, and I think I brought that up here. And here it is. So you can read, it almost has a bit of I was thinking like Baudelaire, and it was funny, and I was actually looking to see if I could find Baudelaire talking about Delacroix online. I couldn't find anything online. It's like whoever has the copyright of the translation, they seem to have just scraped it off the web. Very tough copyright, it seems, because I couldn't find it. I did several searches, amazingly. But you can find it in the Painter of Modern Life and other essays, and all to say, the style, though, I was like, this almost has a Baudelairean kind of feel to it. So cool, really well-written art criticism here by RJ on, and kind of a nice length here, too, and nice works cited, really professional, just really cool. So I'm not sure if this is for sale yet. There are 50, but pretty cool. That might be the first curated show with like an artist statement and done in this way, right? So I guess that's why I'm kind of, that's one of the reasons I'm kind of really wanted to highlight this. Deep Dive 1, Yuri J and the Paradox of Place. It's like a solo show, but online. These works, by the way, look fabulous too. The color Yuri. And here are some new works by Yuri J. I went to Yuri J's feed and saw there are brand new works here. They're cheap. They're 0.1 ETH. I mean, ETH is getting up there. With the big ETF news, ETH pumped hilariously, up 10%, maybe more, 11. Zabriskie Point. So here is one of them. So some new work here under a series called Happy Accidents from Yuri J. Pretty cool piece here, and great color, and all sorts of accidents here like you see on the edge here. And all sorts of just mayhem, randomness, interesting patterning here. Kind of, I don't know if whimsical is the right word. I guess a touch whimsical. Just really interesting work, kind of half representational, half, I don't know if I'd call it surreal. There is a surreal element to it, but just half kind of imagination, so to speak, half dreamlike. So maybe in that respect it is surreal. Look at this interesting hill here too, and even just the car with the trailer, just really interesting. Here's another piece. What I was going to say, the famous octopus from Yuri J's work here, reading a book and playing a small piano with the octopus foot there. And here you again have that wild perspective, that off-kilter, almost medieval-like distorted perspective, which really gives the piece a lot of its character here. So just beautiful. And there is the laptop. Just very cool. And I actually want to go to RJ's. There's something RJ was saying here about there's something I missed here. I think an academic-style journal or different essays on different artists' themes concerns should be cool and fills a niche that's still vacant. A nice compliment to the likes of Pocobelli and In Warhol, who does the tickle. If any has any thoughts, please let me know. Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of curation, actually, and I think it's great. And I think this is just like a whole other product. so to speak. So I think just very cool. So that was the second here, and here's the third. The second actually had a great title, New Order. Here's Lost Highway. Cool title here too, probably a reference to David Lynch movie with that great David Bowie song from Outside at the opener. One of my favorite openers ever. And here, more pianos, which is really cool. And yeah, we see cars and just a whole bunch of stuff, almost parking lot barrier and street lights, a lot of traffic, trees, a lot of the same kind of imagery, the car upside down. Remember Yuri J made a piece called Crash as well, likely a reference to either to Ballard, J.G. Ballard, or to the director, whose name is escaping me at the moment, who did the movie Crash. What is his name? David Cronenberg. David Cronenberg. Glad I remembered that. The Myth and OK Digital. So as we go into more paintings here, so interesting piece. You know, almost within the context of that earlier discussion we were having there with Sky Goodman and on rawness, right? And when is a work finished? It's actually a super interesting question, and there's no right answer, right? Because you can keep going and keep going. This, for example, this work by The Myth, you could keep going, you know, so it's a very interesting question, but a work doesn't always improve by keeping going. You know, you can overwork a piece. Sometimes the rawness actually has much more flavor than, you know, polishing everything up. So here's what I'd call a looser work by Myth, and a pretty interesting one here too. And it has like a experimental feel to it in its composition, almost like always. There's always a lot of experimentation in Myth's work. And here's the Lemonhead guy. Again, a little bit of non-finito here. Really nice. It almost looks... It's almost like sketchbook work, but it's not. Like it's more sketching. There's more sketching elements here that are left. And here it works particularly... Oh, and I forgot about Objects Amazing. Look at how big this is. Look at how great this looks up close. And let me see if I can get to this part here. This is what I want to highlight here. Just this great... You see the blue here that goes on top? And here it almost doesn't make sense, right? Like he just stops. Myth just stops here. And so just a very cool work here. And again, landscape over top here. Really kind of a different colored sky at the top here than this sky at the bottom. Just a lot of cool stuff. And this woman, I think we keep seeing again and again. And you start to wonder, is this the Myth here? A self-portrait of sorts? Just a really cool work. Let's see what happened in the market. Now, this is a collaboration with OK Digital, and I'm not exactly sure who OK Digital is. And some were transferred. I'm not exactly sure. Let's just see who OK Digital is. Discover and explore, powered by Ugo Digi, the vibrant and exciting current computer art scene. So interesting. So collaborating with a lot of artists. There's Wasteman Goldmanovich. Awesome. So interesting. There's Nuv 1914. So very interesting. OK Digital. I feel like I've seen them before. And there's Ugo, but nothing that I remember super clearly. So that's super interesting. This, I believe, is a fragment here. This Pedrino talking about a collab with Burnsy Witch or L'Inquisiteur. Let me go back here. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Kind of looks like a Tesla Cybertruck kind of thing with some nice, that is burning, the joy of not being sold anything on the billboard here. And I think it's a fragment, although it does work on its own as a painting, doesn't it? As a digital painting. The fire is beautiful, by the way, and the smoke and everything. And there's the sky. So cool work. So this is going to drop on Thursday, January 11th, which is today. Continuing on. Flora Marquez, a course on Mallow, mallow.art. So a really cool piece here. Cool animation from Flora. GIF experimentation, 0.8 sol. So I guess Mallow is on sol. And let's see if we can make this bigger. Sometimes some platforms don't have the, let's see if we can do this, don't have the maximize tool. And it's kind of a nice thing for the art. And there we go. A bigger version here using what looks like a photograph of a notebook, a lined notebook. And here you almost see again wow. This is something that really captured my imagination. We were talking about the non-finito, right? A technique that's thought to have been developed, as longtime watchers will know, by Michelangelo. There's actually great courses. Also Wondrium. They just actually put it on Wondrium now, where you can get the 2-week free trial. Need to make them a sponsor of this show, where it's like episode 2 or 3 or lecture 2 or 3. You already get into Michelangelo's being the thesis that Michelangelo was the pioneer of the non-finito. In other words, leaving something half finished, or not completing the work and going, that is the work, on purpose, okay? And one of the things about a year ago, I had worked on this nostalgia study Lego work where I was like, because what finishes a piece? When is a work done, right? And then because when your artists will know this because they're working on different versions and they go, this is pretty good. And then they add a bit more and they go, oh, this is pretty good. Again, there's more than one right answer here. And so one of the solutions I would argue that GIFs provide, which we see here, is you can start to put variations in the work, but they can all go into one work. The animation, so to speak, captures each frame as a different non-finito, so to speak. So in a weird way, it's a solution to this issue of when is a work finished. It's one of the ways, because you can always just leave something a quarter done. It's one of my favorite techniques, and then it's just like, and it can look better than the 100% done work. Often does, So here, as you see, things start to fill in and fill out. So very interesting, beautiful work here on Solana. I think it's 0.8 Sol from Flora Marquez. So very cool. And she's on a Twitter space that we did back, I think maybe in May. And that is worth checking out and super interesting. Here's one by Pomelo with some more awesome music here. Feeling the vibe. Feeling the end of the week coming. I'm not sure. Maybe the music's by Pomelo on this one. Or Pachaka. I think it's Pomelo. So, very cool work here. Again, just a really cool series, and the music's always really good on that series. Check out this Ed Marola piece. When did this come out? January 5th. Grabbed by the Tail. Really cool colors here. I completely missed this one. And so, really nice piece here by Ed Marola. Nice dragging the pixel brush and everything, and different, just a nice simple one. Again, it's kind of back to that earlier theme. The more you make, the more kind of hits you're going to have. The more you're going to get lucky, so to speak. So you might as well be very prolific. You see the fruits of prolificness in artists like Ed Marola and other super prolific artists. Continuing on, Hasdrubal Waffle. Here's another one by Ed Marola here. Interesting piece. Interesting experimentation. Nice little contrast here. Nice little dragging here. And again, the contrast being this kind of tiled floor here. A little bit of order in all this chaos. And here you see a little purple guy riding, seemingly, this bigger monster here, perhaps. So again, Ed Marola's main theme is dreams. And there, you can see a little person with a little, maybe bowl of water or something in their little hut there. So very dreamlike here. Nice frame there too. Ed Marola colors in the frame. And oh, let's look at this. What is that? That almost looks like a signature, but maybe something different. Again, in classic Ed Marola colors of basically purple and pink. Continuing on, one more, a plant vase seated by a bird. This is also Ed Marola, again, using interesting brushes, interesting brush here, kind of stamping, a kind of gate of sorts. Here's a bird, a little bit of dithering in there, and then some different kind of textures in the background. And, it makes You know, when you like an artwork, you know, when you like an artist or an artwork where you go, I want to do that. And seeing Ed's work, it makes me want to just go, maybe I should just make some nice narrative paintings, but one thing at a time. So this is 55 Tezos. It's one of one. And when was this listed? 1 day ago. So that is still available. And this is a cool experimental work here, or I would say, with this photograph here by Martin Brook, and then this interesting kind of similar dragged like brush, similar but different, kind of a sample here that's dragged, and weird composition here, a little bit of shading just to increase the strangeness here, and no text here on X from Martin Bruce. Super cool artist there. And continuing on, Working Class, with a couple of interesting pieces here. And there we see a couple of Looney Tunes figures, strong red background, and maybe clouds, almost Magritte-esque in the face here, with what looks like kind of a, I don't know if it's a garbage bag or maybe it's a bandana or cloth. Not exactly sure, but an interesting piece with Titanic. So kind of a ambiguous, cryptic piece here. Can't read that, unfortunately. That was minted on Hic et Nunc. A lot of people are minting on Hen, by the way, which is interesting. You know, I could see there being staying power in that platform, but let's see. Here's another one. Working Class. This is called Girls, and I thought this was actually pretty cool too. So combining, you know, let me see if I can make this bigger. Combining Vans shoes, those same clouds we saw in the face of the other one. Again, almost like cartoon characters. This one I don't recognize. And then some women and a skateboard here, a flag. Not exactly sure what's going on. Some flowers in the sky. Just an interesting piece here. This is an edition of 12 and listed for 4 Tezos 80 cents here. Maybe this was burned. There are 0 editions, so not exactly sure. This is probably burned, actually, is what happened, or transferred to someone else. Maybe they were transferred to someone else. So maybe that's OK Digital. Not sure. Let's continue here. Detaste with an interesting piece, Virtual Insanity. And this is a, when did this come out? Minted on January 9th. So here, reference to the Sex Pistols, never mind the Bullocks, here's the Vanguard. And a cool quoting of Keith Haring here. That is pretty interesting. And a Thrasher, person in a Thrasher t-shirt with just deep, dark, black eyes, entirely black eyes with 4 arms. And really carefully, let's go closer here. Really almost like Microsoft Paint style. Little paraphernalia there, and there is Pepe as the thinker. So a pretty deep piece here, isn't it? Even this big space picture in the back, and then, you know, really nice texture here too. And nice, there's a closer look at the eyes. Pretty interesting piece, isn't it? Brick wall, everything. Let's just see here, 6 Tezos, 10 editions, edition of 10. And there are 2 have been sold at 6 Tezos, and Mikey Wilson getting maybe a freebie there, but I'm sure he earned it. He's probably bought every work by Detaste, if I had to guess. Tezos, Mental Noise. Here is a work, again, saw this on Twitter. I thought it was a cool piece. Kind of fits well with the last one there. And here we see a motorbike in the background and the Mental Noise figure here with the rabbit head that we're familiar with, and on a basketball court, and a couple other friends, one in a balaclava, and interesting shoes there. Let me see. Isn't that interesting? Just all white, right? Very interesting. Almost looking unfinished to a certain degree, but actually with very nice effect. But it is finished there. Interesting details when you look up close there too, with the footprint. And there is a very nicely rendered Jack Daniels bottle of whiskey and maybe some beers there. And always one of the trademarks there, putting the palette in the bottom of the painting work. And there is the signature also of Mental Noise. So this is for $4.40 on primary, and they are selling. So this has, and 111 editions. Wow, so that is pretty good. Load more. And so how many owners do we have? We have 15. So Tezos Art Collective is who posted this. So all to say, very cool work. Maybe this is the signature, artist signature collection, and those tend to do pretty well. So very cool. Here, rustic digital art and more super interesting 2024 experimentation here. So taking a Windows desktop, seemingly, and some Photoshop files, combining it with some Marios, and also adding a big figure here, maybe a head, and a massive question mark from Super Mario, as well as some hearts, and a Google search. How to make art with a computer and paint and a computer and a phone and a pencil. And here, a little bit of Photoshop UI here. So cool experimentation there. And this sold for 10 Tezos. And is that a one of one? It is a one of one. So that is pretty cool. I love this one as well. A Disease Called Love. Interesting titles. Pikachu used Thundershock. Pretty nice piece, and seems to be in the same series. And there's Duck Hunt. And let's just zoom in a little bit here, just so we can get a good idea. I mean, again, Object, they did a wonderful job here. Look at this. Love the text. Very cool. So almost painting with text here. Very cool repetitions and overlaps. And you see the same thing here with the Marios. Looks pretty rad, actually, when you zoom in like this, doesn't it? So pretty interesting, and also interesting to put the screenshot here and then leaving a whole bunch of kind of negative space or margin there. A decision that looks easy, but actually kind of not intuitive. Very cool work, as usual, from Rustic Digital Art. Here's Sui Soshi. It's so simple, you need Microsoft Paint and GIMP. Absolutely anyone with Windows can be me. So here is Sui Soshi. Interesting, almost feels like there's a curve in here, which is interesting. So interesting abstract here. I still haven't used GIMP. I opened it once about 6 or 7 years ago. I'll have to reopen it because a lot of people use it. Tradscape, who does the music to this program, both the opening and the closing music, has a new one, Toucan Dances with Sea Grapes, and this is 15 Tezos on primary, and it is going. There are already 5 gone, and it is an addition of 20. And so here's the Toucan. So very cool texture here. And again, always a little bit of a kind of video game vibe to the piece here. And the toucan, of course, is the parrot. And so interesting piece here. And great at the bottom there, too. Great, I almost want to call it digital noise, but it's really just the grass and who knows, maybe some flowers or something. Kind of ambiguous what's being represented, which is what I like about it. Even here, and nice animation there, too. And again, this textured background. So Toucan Dances with Sea Grapes. There are 10 left on primary at 15 Tezos. And here, Fornax Void Visitors. So a new one from Fornax Void. Now, I always seem to have problems playing, as you can see here, Fornax Void. So I brought it up here. Being prepared here. Here we go. Really strange work, I would say, but super cool. Moody. Interesting glitch in there, too. So, very interesting. Always has a bit of a video game kind of vibe and theme. So, let's continue here. And, okay, let's run through this. Okay, Kareem Safa. We have a new work here, and this is part of a show here. Actually, this is part of Hodler's Pixel Perfect show, which uses, I believe, mech.txt's font. So here are the works, and we looked at Loac Me yesterday, so there are more works here, a couple by mech.txt. I think we've seen this one. I want to take a closer look. And here's 0x, another interesting artist here, who kind of has, it's kind of like that same kind of low resolution art, similar to Ripcache. You wonder if this is on-chain. It is, fully on-chain. Interesting. And here is DIID and Kareem Safa and Yudho, who I think we've seen some works by Yudho recently as well. And Spiegels Maskinen. I brought up a couple here. I couldn't bring up all of them. And here is Postmodern Urubos. And here, a couple of works there. Here was the mech.txt work. I think we've seen this before, so it's now for sale. Almost a Shakespeare figure here, classical figure there, asteroids. And here is that work by, and let's just look at the name again, 0x Art. Bidding starts at 0.42. And here, I thought this was a really interesting work here by Spugels. I'd never seen Spugels do a work like this before. So very interesting piece here from Spugels. So all very interesting. Check out the show. You can see it all at hodlers.one and go to their website and you'll see the whole show. Continuing on, as we run through this episode here, this is Demon Ego, of course, and let me make this larger. Now this is an animation, exactly. Kind of a different composition here from Demon Ego, isn't there? So how cool is that? Interesting to see, Demon Ego. I was talking about like, what if I was to try doing like narrative painting, so to speak. This is also, it's like, because Demon Ego is very kind of, for lack of a better term, modular, or kind of, and so it's interesting to see Demon Ego do something that's more like a traditional composition. Very interesting. So cool piece there. And of course, I had to show this. This is, of course, Marcelo Pinel with Capricorn. So I think putting out one a month. So just, spectacular work here by Marcelo Pinel. And there's even a Christmas tree there, hilariously, psychedelically. And there is, is it Capricorn? It is Capricorn. Kind of looks like a sheep. I don't know the details on Capricorn there. And look at the fruit and everything. There's a little mushroom there. Oh, and there's some more. There's a tree. So just beautiful. And there's probably the constellation. Wow, what a piece. And the snow coming down with the rainbow and the planet. You could go on and on. So available on primary for $42. And how many are left? Edition of 25. And there are 7 left. Not even. There are 4 left. So get it while you can. Kurt Hustle Collective with a very interesting contrast here. Kind of an anime in the middle of this, what looks like kind of a jungle here in the background. Interesting contrast. Culture is, I think, the artist, the music artist that is in a lot of Kurt Hustle's work here. Check this out. I think it was this one I was listening to this morning. Yeah, it sounds like air. But totally its own thing, like not derivative at all, but it just would mix well if you like air. It's really, really good tune. See what I mean? Just very, very, very cool work. I was listening to this all morning, just that first track, as I was preparing this show. I just loved the vibe there. So Voyage Agency, so that is 3 Tezos, and you can get and there are an edition of 10 for this album there. Here's another one, Gamma, and, right, Kurt Hustle Collective. But this is probably Gyoza District, actually. Kind of has a lot of lounge kind of feel. Like a really cool cafe. Here's another one, New World. This was sent to me, actually. I'm not sure if I've listened. Wow. Half an hour. Super talented musicians here. Cool covers here too. By Nouveau Life. So I'm actually really looking forward to listening to a lot of Kurt Hustle collectives, like the music that's being put out on that account. Because a lot of it's sounding great and I've never heard it before. Augmented Reality. So this is Walk with what I think is a September 11th series here. So as we're going, I think 1 minute at a time, 9:44 in the morning, one assumes, and this is went at auction for $420 So good deal on a walk 1 of 1. Continuing on, here's Ricano and Overnight Express. So here also, so we saw Ricano's gradient work yesterday, and kind of like generative art, I think. So doing lots of experimentation here, and here is kind of like a train and the laptop is bouncing around, so interesting way of doing it. This is 5 Tezos. One is sold to Edward Gate, and it's an edition of 5, so small edition there. Continuing on, Sabato with a really cool piece here, the offshore firm. This is a wild series here. Let's just look at it bigger. So, of course, Disney here, and the fan, and we'll see if it moves. A couple of photocopiers. So, and here, oh, that might be zoomed in. There we go. And there, put Steamboat Willie. Of course, we saw a lot of artwork celebrate Steamboat Willie with the copyright expiring, as far as I understand, on the 1st. There's an interesting kind of dithered gun underneath. And there it is. I thought a really cool take on the Steamboat Willie, and kind of full of ambiguity there in this kind of ambiguous space. Even the way, the background wall, and then here you see it on a computer. There's something very ominous about this whole, goofy movie, maybe. These office plants. Kind of a wild work here by Sabato. So just cool. The Goofy Office Has No Doors. Good title, too. Continuing on. Nuv 1914 with some interesting colors in this one. So there it looks like a flower, and kind of combining a bit of the abstraction here and just doing some cool experimentation, as you see here. Endlessly experimenting here and here, and just all sorts of stuff. So so this is a 1 of 1 sold for 9 Tezos, and looks like it sold pretty quickly there. And so continuing on, Mumble Boy. This was a great digital collage here. Here are my first new pieces of the year, running up that hill in attack. So there must be another one. So these are on Object. I just saw it on Twitter here. So cool works here. This one really kind of jumped out at me. So I had to show that. And of course, Bosque Gracias, minting a few more from this awesome Native Textures series. Just looks like art, doesn't it? Speaking of, these kind of like, this also, I was thinking of Demon Ego and that modular. I was thinking of Rauschenberg a little bit, just kind of putting just stuff here, stuff there. Also, Bosque Gracias has a bit of a kind of a Rauschenberg looseness, which is just really amazing. It just looks great. Field is required. Here's another one, 8 Tezos, edition of 2 only. So very low edition here. See if we can make it bigger. So nice kind of red there. And this one I thought was really jumped out too. What is this called? Point of View. And this is, how many? Edition of 2. And so another just beautiful work here by Bosque Gracias. And continuing on, and let me just make sure everything is under control. I think we can do that. Let's continue here. Another one here, and this is using a painting. So this is more kind of classic. I'm not sure, does it say who it is? I don't see. Maybe they don't know. I haven't read the description text here, but just another cool contrast, all on film negatives, but one is a photo and the other is a painting. Just cool, simple idea. Edition of 2, 8 Tezos. Here's Acid Boy on Super Rare, so it has been minted. I'm not sure if there is music. I don't think so. Here it is. So very cool piece here. Looks great from Acid Boy, making it look easy. I really love the background, actually. The background color really makes this ring. The white, especially when it turns white, there's something very powerful in this work, including the color here. And what is Origin? I mean, pretty epic. And speaking of epic, Kazuhiro Ehara. Kazuhiro Ehara, look at this. Just a wild, unusual experimental composition here. I mean, you have to marvel at that one. ETF up. Okay, so a little bit probably of a Bitcoin reference. And there we have a sale, 13 Tezos, Ahek, Anya Asano, Hegel, Art Collector, and Illusional. And this is an edition of 13. Super cool piece. Here, Renki Fukushima, referring maybe to the nuclear disaster there in Japan after the earthquake in, was that 2010, 2011? So Fukushima, interesting title. And here, just a cool animated abstract. And here's another composition from Klaus here. I think we have a few again. Just delightful colors here. Just really fun, cool, aesthetically, just hitting it out of the park, basically. Look at this rich purple. Super rich. And this, what's interesting about it is the little bit of movement lets you really just focus and enjoy that rich purple. And just, you see a little bit of really rough pixelation there. Just a great series. What are these? 21 Tezos sold to Art Monochrome. And let's just see the other one. This one also 21 Tezos, so all selling, one of ones, and this is a new one, I think, and also sold to Innovare. So it looks like it's selling right away. So there's a power in putting out one of ones pretty reasonably priced, right? I mean, it's a tough market right now, right? So what do? I would take, and I say this to myself as much as to everybody else. I'd take a note, take a page out of Klaus's playbook here. Maybe you just put out some cheap or lower priced one of ones, and maybe that generates the sale you're looking for. Coda Nakazono, Continuum number 185. So new Coda Nakazono, this is 31 Tezos. Selling out, I think, at 15 Tezos on primary, edition of 5. So not a totally soft market. I mean, the market is there. The heart is beating, and you see it on works like this. When did this come out? 4 days ago. So pretty good. And I think all selling out right away. So great work from Coda Nakazono. Here's another one. And this is also sold out at, I think, taking offers from 15 to 18 Tezos. So very nice work there from Coda. Bringing in probably 100 Tezos, which is pretty good. So interesting piece, keeping it original. Number 180. Score with another Lucky Cats work here. This is called Wishes. Cool. I love the composition size, the wide angle here, the landscape, so to speak. And this one is a video. This one you can't control. I'm not sure if we could control the other one. I can't remember. But look at how great that looks. I'll have to send that to my friend that loves the Lucky Cats. Really nice piece in Touch Designer, as well as Adobe 3D Scan. So maybe scanning that, maybe from a storefront, who knows. Continuing on, Luciana Guerra with an incredible piece here, this drawing on Solana Children Eater. Look at this. So somehow, miraculously, I'm not sure you can see that, somehow miraculously, turning this drawing, or making a 3D drawing here, into a GLB. So just super cool. And like, how far can we, this is the max zoom in here. So pretty impressive. Very cool. And continuing on, Little Bear, Martin Joe, kind of a edgy work here from Martin Joe, kind of a scary work. So, continuing the kinky theme here, you have been a good little bear. So, ominous work here from Martin Joe. And what is it? Edition of 10 for 2 Tezos, and there are 8 left. And here, Sky Goodman, I have a new AI and original photography series. So, cool clouds here from Sky Goodman. The photos are pics I've taken over the years of landscapes and cityscapes, with my gaze always focused on the sky. I've always been drawn to the wide expanse of the sky. In the sky, one can paint stories and receive great insights. So here, Sky Goodman makes a pretty cool, I want to say glitch of the clouds, but not necessarily, just cool processing, AI and original photography. It's fun working with original photography. I do it myself, actually, sometimes, and there is something kind of fun because I use a lot of references and screenshots and this sort of thing, famous paintings. It is nice to just take a picture that's yours, that you've taken, and then make a work out of it. So I can totally relate to enjoying doing that. Von Doyle, Take Me by the Hand. So I think Von Doyle works in AI. I'm not super sure, but Either way, a super interesting painting here. Almost, I can't remember the name of that artist that the vegetables make the head. What is the name of that artist? It starts with a P. Almost has that vibe to it a little bit in the head there. So this was just posted on Twitter, and I follow Von Doyle there. Take Me by the Hand, and yeah, so just interesting piece here from Von Doyle. I don't know where it's minted. And here is Olivera Durdovic, Merry Women and a Curious Man. So interesting piece here. Almost has a Christmas vibe in the colors here. I think this is AI. I just followed Olivera today. I think this is AI text. So I think it's an AI painting. I'm not positive, but that was my impression from looking at the page. Pretty cool painting. You gotta love this part here and over here. Very painterly AI painting, if I am correct, and correct me if I'm wrong out there if anybody knows otherwise. Cool signature there too. Do we have any details on object? So we'll have to check the object page. And this is also on X. You can guess the artist's strange thing, a study of movement and expression. Pretty cool work here. I mean, amazing. Again, it has the qualities of a Renaissance painting here, but new, but one you've never seen before. And again, with contemporary figures, just adding to the mystery here, adding to the strangeness, I should say. And this guy coming in at the back. Pretty amazing work from an AI artist. And here is another work, AI-assisted image. I like how this is described here, AI-assisted image made with the blend function in Midjourney. That's a good description. AI-assisted image, that is a good description. Okay, here's Mikey Wilson. You know what's interesting about this piece? Is the bottom, how Mikey leaves in this bottom black bar here, which I thought that was pretty cool decision there. And here you see another AI painting, a couple of guys in a balaclava on a motorbike. Interesting background there. This is an open edition at 3 Tezos each, and quite a few selling here. And 8, 9, 10, maybe 12 selling so far, so pretty good. 11 editions. And here is Ocote. They will never know what hit them. And is this a new one? This is brand new, 17 hours ago, exactly. So here is another one in that Global South series, and again, in the water, mysteriously, and almost like a canoe with the paddles being broken. And there, these kind of wild, I guess we'd call them a balaclava mask here, and just a regular kind of painting of what looks like, somewhere in Latin America in the background there. Cool work, again, in that really cool series, Global South series. And it's an edition of 7, and there are 4 left. Continuing on, Lily Illo with a cool, again, kind of going with a more raw kind of feel on this one, just posting this one here. Very interesting. Again, what's interesting me most right now, just on a personal level, is this idea of rawness. And, what is the value of rawness? Because right now it's kind of got a really high value in my mind. I'm what's there to, I'm trying to figure out rawness a little bit. And I'd say this is kind of a rawer work. It's not like these are finished chairs here, right? And we're also seeing in the Flora Marquez how it goes from kind of less finished to more finished to less finished. It's just an interesting discussion here. And even the chair, it's missing pieces. So again, the architecture and chairs series, I think, as we continue in the AI section, here's a Tukes 1 of 1 posted to object. Again, I love these borders here because it would have been so easy to. I love how it's being left in because it's kind of like I suspect it's celebrating like the AI decision to because you could easily crop the last I don't know however many pixels this is on the left, but keeping it in there, which I think is interesting. Even the crop on the top is interesting. Symphony of the Subconscious, a wonderful title, 100 Tezos, listed 9 hours ago on Object. And here's another one, Dawn Blushes the Sky. I believe this sold to AI Collection for 100 Tezos after 2 hours. So the heart is beating on this market. There is a pulse, and really interesting piece here. Perhaps it's a more selective market is what's going on here. And we'll see. Maybe this thing booms right back. I do believe you're blushing, number 17. I mean, again, we have the advantage here, I would argue. If Bitcoin kind of goes to the moon, or if it at least continues to perform well, there will be more liquidity in this market than perhaps, and it is cheaper than, say, like the traditional art world where, what are you buying for less than $5,000? What are you going to be able to buy? Unless it's someone who's undiscovered, right? Let's go to Little Cakes here. I do believe you're blushing. This is part of the M-Props series Little Cakes did. I thought this was a great piece that was minted here. Oh, this is December 9th. We may have already looked at this. I'm not sure. So buy on secondary for 17. So again, addition of 1 on that one. Here's the one that was for this is to help donate to the earthquake relief in Japan. And a pretty interesting piece. I think it's done. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but I don't think I showed it. So here is the work that goes to the earthquake in Japan, which hasn't gotten a ton of press, I have to say. So how many were minted here? 30 people. So nice work there. Great job. Continuing on, this is hilarious. Happy New Year from Little Cakes. I haven't figured out where I'm going, or what I am doing. And just a haunting image here from Little Cakes. And I think Santiago had a hilarious comment here. Maybe it wasn't, I thought it was something, well, he had a few comments, I guess. There was one that I thought was hilarious. I can't remember. It's something like, "This is so great," or something. Anyway, hilarious there. From Little Cakes. And here's Gary Gensler from No Hygiene. Interesting piece. This was minted yesterday. So another experimental AI piece here from No Hygiene. Pushing the edges here. Pushing the frontiers of aesthetics with Gary. BTC listed for 15 Tezos. And finally, some physical works here. I believe this was retweeted by Sabato. And this kind of went around a little bit. This Naturlicht Tourism underground landscape. Just a cool, what looks like a physical. Nice piece there. And of course, Bobby Chikmatia, Kitty's Revenge, acrylic on canvas 2024. So interesting piece here. Again, these kind of wild perspectives here. But with this kind of like, almost, I don't want to call it juvenile, but where there's almost this like humor, right, that you'd find in just like almost like in sketchbooks or like in sketching or doodling of like a high school student. It's okay, let's put like a cat. It's got that humor, that new school humor that, there's something about, we were talking about humor, black humor. There is kind of I think we can start to identify a kind of new school humor, perhaps. This is posted by Aw Heck, School Bus versus Bicycles by Todd Bienvenu. And I thought this is also a pretty interesting piece, kind of a bit of humor in this one, more black humor than anything. A school bus maybe hitting a bunch of bicycle riders. I thought a nice painting, an original. And continuing on, here's a new one from Helio Santos, again using the paint plotter, the self-made paint plotter. And so let's just take a closer look here. Great. I love the margin here. That's beautiful. And let's just see if we can zoom in. So here, so I guess it's like a photo, because of course, or maybe a scan, but probably a photo of this work, which is probably why the photo breaks down a little bit. All to say, pretty nice results from this homemade paint plotter, I believe. Synthetic landscape generated with machine learning, painted with a drawing robot. And this artist that I find super exciting, if I was running a gallery and had the cash and everything, I'd be trying to sign this guy up. Look at this, Bondozo Bandito. Just the originality. It's like, I'll do anything. It's kind of back to that humor, that new school humor we're discussing. Like you see it in the art, right? Here's someone doing what looks like yoga. Pretty difficult pose like their bridge. What's maybe more interesting, though, is all this in the background. This is what happens when you work nonstop. I think this person's working nonstop, and it's really paying off here. I assume. It could be an older work, but I don't think so. So really interesting piece, knocking off like interesting pieces every day, physicals. This is an older work, but I thought it was a really cool work. I saw this on Instagram. August Noon posted it. It's March Avery is the artist, and Snowbike 1996. I think it's an older painting. It could be a new painting, and it's called Snowbike 1996, but I have a feeling it's from 1996. All to say, just a really nice, cool painting, cool subject, very modern, contemporary. And here's Joao Salazar Reborn. And this was just minted. And what is the edition? 21 editions. And you can buy it at $6.69. And there are 2 left. So get it while you can. Joao Salazar, super cool Play-Doh plasticine work here. And we saw the animations made of this work. And flowers coming out of this kind of skull figure with almost like a judge's clothing there. And finally, Leprochant, Lost Head. So a cool work from Leprochant here. Looks like a sculpture. You see the eyes here, and almost like what maybe these fish cookies or whatever they are. So interesting piece, interesting angle on the composition. Nice light. This is 99 cents, edition of 15, and just listed on 3 hours ago on Object. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me again, and thank you for everything and all the support and everything. Till next time, take care.